about to join Don Neuen, co-host of Cowboy Logic Radio, and Denise Simon, host of the Denise Simon Experience, for a weekly situation report, or SITREP. 18 hours a day, Denise Simon lives her life as an Intel Analyst. 18 hours a day, Don Neuen lives his life in the world of rock and roll. 1 hour each day, Neuen receives a daily SITREP from Simon. Welcome to the Drive Time Situation Report. Fasten your seatbelt. You are now in Don Neuen's car, and he is calling in for his SITREP.
Smello.
What's up, Denise Simon?
Oh, what a day at the office, Mr. Don.
I couldn't agree with you more. I'll tell you, Denise, I saw a few headlines, some of which I really want to ask you about to see if you got any insight about it. But other than just reading the headlines, I didn't have time for anything. So I truly need a sit rep tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's Drive Time Sit Rep with Denise Simon on one end of this conversation, coming to you from her bunker in Central Florida, and I'm coming to you from the other end. My name is Don Neuen, and I am in my car driving home after a long day at work. Unlike any other radio station or radio show that you'll listen to, like I said, I'm in my car, and Denise is at her bunker down there in Central Florida. I have called into her on my drive home, hence the name Drive Time Sit Rep, which is about the only time that Denise and I get to talk. And she's going to update me on what happened today. Now, we're going to do a couple of things before then. We're going to first tell you about her website. So at any point during this show, if you can pop open another window, we really encourage you to go check out her site, founderscode.com. Founders with an S, code.com. Now, at that website, you're going to find all her great work. You can follow it. And the great thing about her site, she does all the work for you. She vets everything. It doesn't get posted if it's not accurate. So you can always count on her to not make you look like a fool with fake news and fake crap that you're going to be having trouble with trying to vet. The other thing is this. Denise is going to timestamp this show as we do every week, so that you, our beloved listeners, are going to have an idea of exactly when this conversation took place. Why do we do that? Because Denise is always ahead of the curve. No matter what she's talking about, if we talk about a basketball or a football or a baseball game that's going to take place next week, she's already got the score. It's amazing what she's able to do. All right, so at any rate, Denise, before you timestamp it, Merry Christmas to you, you Easter worshiper.
Well, thank you, and jingle bells right back at you. Can we?
All right.
Did we eliminate Santa Claus yet?
Nope. He is still a Christmas character, one to be celebrated. Obviously, not as much as the baby Jesus.
Yeah, I was going to say the nativity is going away.
That's right. So any of you that have no idea why we just did that, I think we've been doing it long enough that most of you know. But if you don't, just go back and listen to a couple of episodes. We'll bring you up to speed pretty quickly. All right, Denise, timestamp it and let's jam.
It's 8:44 p.m. Eastern on the second day of July in the year of our Lord, 2019.
Excellent amundo. And I am speaking a great deal of Spanish after the debates that took place. I got to be honest with you, it really motivated me to break out my Google Translate and say things in Spanish. Before we get into anything, I just want to throw out, if you don't mind, my takeaway from the debates, which was very simple. Free things for everybody. Don't know how they're going to pay for it. They're going to pay for it, though, somehow. The federal government will pay for it. Number two, Black lives don't matter anymore. That's over. It's gone. We're done with it. Number three, or I should say the Democrats are done with it. Number 3, tan is the new black. That's basically my takeaway from 4 hours of listening to Democrat debates. Oh, one last thing. No borders whatsoever. The United States is no longer a sovereign state, and we will provide health care that you and I and our beloved listeners will pay for anyone on planet Earth that can somehow put their foot on U.S. soil illegally or legally. That's my takeaway from the debates. What do you think?
Well, it keeps going because officially the Supreme Court ruled that the lower courts have to make the decision on the 2020 census regarding the citizenship question. And as of today, the Trump administration, the Trump White House, has decided that they are not going to fight it. They are not going to rush it through. They're going to just go ahead and comply, and the citizenship question will not be on the form. And so, if I remember correctly, it goes to print next week.
Unbelievable. Beyond shocking.
Well, you know what?
Shocking to me.
I'm maybe okay with this.
Okay, well, convince me of it then.
Well, here's the reason why. The reason we do a census in the first place is to, one, count the people that are here and determine, from whence they come. But the bigger part of the data that we gather is really for where federal dollars go. It could change voting districts. It could do a lot of things because we get another insight snapshot of the country every 10 years. And that snapshot changes a lot of things. So if California, let's say Los Angeles, is inundated with tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of illegals, Mexicans, Yemenis, Afghanis, Chinese, Congo, wherever, and it is a much larger number than it was 10 years ago, they're not going to get any more federal dollars. Do you see what I'm saying?
Okay. Yeah, I do.
So, they may get additional federal dollars based on a number, but they won't get federal dollars based on country of origin, or things won't change like education. You see what I'm saying? So it may work to a lot of these cities, Chicago, New York, Newark, New Jersey, Miami. It may work to their real detriment ultimately.
Let me ask you this. Is it, and I would assume it's possible, but is it a concern that maybe someone that is in California that's here illegally and is not a U.S. citizen ends up taking one of these census surveys and lists themselves as a U.S. citizen?
Yeah.
Is that a concern?
I don't know how the questions are going to be worded. So it's very difficult to determine whether somebody could necessarily check mark or the wrong box or answer incorrectly, because I don't yet know how the sentence structure is going to be. We may be changing that up dramatically. I have no idea.
What language are the forms in?
Well,
you laugh. I'm serious.
Well, the one is best I remember. The form didn't. Somebody came to my door because I didn't want to comply 10 years ago, so I didn't return it. And then somebody came to my door and they just asked me the questions. So right. I didn't open the census. I didn't read it when it came to the house, and I didn't sign anything or check anything when somebody came to my door. Gotcha.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens with that. Question for you. Why did Mike Pence cancel his trip instant,
we still do not know the full answer to that. Apparently.
Give me a partial.
Well, it was not, according to the White House, it was not a national emergency, national security situation. Okay. Then it was not a health issue because he went directly back to the White House. That's all we know. Now, apparently, they made it originally sound as though he was in the air. He apparently was not in the air because his press secretary said that he was just about to take off from Washington. So they didn't have to divert a plane. But interesting.
Right, what's your gut telling you?
Well, I was getting ready to say he was on his way to New Hampshire apparently to talk about the opioid crisis. But we have a military base in New Hampshire called Peace, P-E-A-C-E or P-E-A-S-E. And that actually went on a lockdown for a little while today. I don't know if that's related, but I'm just putting it there.
Well, it kind of makes sense that it would be.
Other than that, nobody has said a blasted thing.
All right. Well, what else interesting is going on, Denise Simon?
Well, we had officially, I actually put this out either early this morning or yesterday about Nike. Nike has officially had a worldwide colonoscopy.
Well, I'm officially done with Nike, and I
too.
don't even remember the last year that I wore anything that had the logo on it.
Well, I have stuff here, but that's only because I had it before Kaepernick.
What are you going to do with it?
Oh, well, I mean, I'll just wear it to paint or cut the grass or something. But I haven't bought anything since, for sure. Now, if I'm not also mistaken, interestingly enough, most of Nike goods are made in China to start with. So maybe
Probably
we ought to
so,
suggest they put a Mao Zedong flag on the back of their shoes. Maybe we could do that.
Well, Kaepernick probably would be into that.
Yeah. I can't think of anything at a time. It's like who's running the company here. At a time when this country is divided as it is, and allegiance and loyalty to the country is as low as it is, Nike had the chance to really make a very positive statement. They had a chance to kind of redeem themselves. From Colin Kaepernick, I might add. They had a sizable opportunity here. And here's the fascinating thing. These shoes, these Betsy Ross flag shoes, were already being delivered to the stores. So they had already gone through design. They had already gone through committee. They had already gone through production. They had already been shipped back to the United States. They had already been warehoused, sitting on trucks and on their way. Some stores already had them and pulled them from their shelves.
Unbelievable.
And Schmuckface, I mean, I don't know what, I don't know.
Good one.
I don't know how many shoes there were, but Kaepernick got the last say. That into itself, for a multi-million-dollar company, is a travesty.
I wonder if he's got a new position over there at Nike that none of us are aware of.
Well, obviously he does.
Like
he certainly
CEO.
carries more weight than the board of directors now, doesn't he?
Yeah, no kidding. Let me ask you this. How easy is it to pull up the board of directors for Nike?
Well, let's see. Board of Directors, Nike.
I'd be real curious on who's sitting on that board that we might know. Not on a personal basis, of course, but might be familiar to all of us.
I don't know any of these names. We have a couple of Apple people.
Shocking.
We have a couple, huh?
That's shocking.
We have one. I think we have 2 Apple people. We have Federal Express. We have one person. Ignition Partners. I don't know what that is. We have an IBM person. Ariel Investments. Leica LLC. I don't know what that is. But Mark Parker is the chairman and president, and then Philip Knight is the co-founder and chairman emeritus, who, by the way, is 81 years old. So
he's probably got a pair of Nike walkers, like mall walking shoes. Clearly without Betsy Ross's flag on the back of them.
At 81, he may have been around when Betsy Ross was sewing.
He may have known her. Maybe she's not a very nice person, and that's why they did this. I can't think of anything that has any more rationale to it. All right, so I think it's safe to say that Denise Simon and Don Neuen and our respective families will no longer be doing any business with the Nike brand. End of story?
End of story.
All right. What else is happening, Niecy?
Well, let's talk about Eddie Gallagher.
Is he on the board at Nike?
No.
No, I'm kidding. I'm assuming that Eddie Gallagher, if I recall, was just found not guilty.
He was found not guilty of murder. He was not guilty of, I guess, premeditated murder, which were the 2 significant charges. There was a third, and this one's kind of interesting. The third charge he was found guilty of, and they admitted it, and that was posing in a photograph with a dead body, with a corpse, which according to the rules, not some kind of UCMJ, but I guess maybe from a esprit de corps standpoint, you can't do that. You have to respect a dead body regardless of who it is. And several, maybe into the tens of thousands of military have taken pictures with dead bodies. And I might add, including my father when he was in Korea, because I have a couple of pictures of him with a dead body with a cigarette in the dead body's mouth. But anyway,
I got you.
In this case, apparently, for Gallagher, it will be time served. And time served is maybe 2 weeks or something. Well, he has clearly already done that because I think he's already been in solitary confinement and then in detention and blah, 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 blah for months and months. So he essentially is going home tonight as a free man completely. Now, I do not know if because of the court-martial and this ridiculous last charge of posing with a corpse changes his rank. So I cannot answer that. I don't know. I tried to poke around and see if there was anything out there about it, except that I've seen a lot of former military that admitted to taking pictures with dead bodies, including Congressman Duncan Hunter. But he had only admitted it after he had gone back to civilian life. Others, I don't think there's really any punishment. There may be, a ruler on some knuckles, but other than that, I haven't seen any kind of real discipline. So I would say Eddie Gallagher has his life back.
All right, let me ask you this. Does the crime of taking a photo with a dead combatant, a dead enemy, a dead soldier that you have killed or participated in killing, does that carry the weight of a court-martial?
I don't believe so.
Then why is he court-martialed?
He was court-martialed for the 2 counts of murder.
But he was found innocent.
Correct.
So is there any possible way the court-martial can stand?
No. I don't know.
Okay.
I think the picture with the corpse is separate, And after they came out for the short press conference today that said he was absolutely elated, almost broke down in tears, they only had a few minutes of a break. They had to go back in for sentencing. I don't know what that is. Nobody has reported on the sentencing, but his attorney inferred that it's generally time served, which he has clearly already done that. So he's finished.
And more, and more, and more, and more.
Uh-huh.
Which he can't get that back.
Correct.
You just can't get it back.
No.
And since you can't sue the military, what a pathetic situation. But boy, are we all elated for Gallagher.
Well, we're happy for him, but the other situation too is, remember the other SEAL, and I've long since lost his name after he had full immunity and admitted that he was the one that had pulled the oxygen cord and essentially asphyxiated the guy. We don't know if they're going to go after him. There may be some still things in play, because I would say that the JAG office, the Navy, may still be quite embarrassed over this whole thing. So they may want some, I don't know, they may have some kind of a vendetta, and they may be going a little further. I would just watch this one carefully for what comes next.
I got you. All right, you got about 3 minutes before we got to go to the dreaded bottom of the hour break. What do you want to touch on for a couple of minutes?
Well, I would say that we can certainly cover Trump at the G20. We don't really even know that he attended the G20 anymore, because his stepping over the line of the DMZ, the demarcation, and walking into North Korea took the headlines. So the meetings that he had while he was at the G20, we don't even know about those, do we?
No.
Did he go to the G20 or did he just go to the DMZ?
I think he had a layover there. I think his layover was at the G20 en route to North Korea. Boy, I don't know about you, but Donna and I stayed up to witness that moment in history.
I did too.
And I think powerful is an understatement. I think epic might be in order.
Well, it was certainly historic. He is the only sitting president that has ever set foot into North Korea. Previous presidents have gone to North Korea outside of their presidency. Now, we need to really make sure that we correct media, because they're saying, hey, this is the third set of negotiations. No. This was the beginning of the second set of a negotiation series. The first two summits were all part of the first set of negotiations. Correct.
And since we've got a minute left, I would like to expand on my epic comment. I'm not suggesting that, because epic is a powerful word, obviously, that the fact that Trump, the first sitting U.S. president, entered and walked into North Korea with Little Kim. Many of us do consider that to be a historical moment that we are absolutely thrilled that we stayed up to witness in real time. I think the epic portion of that is how he did it, and how he kept his hand of cards very close to his vest, because clearly there had to be a lot of preparation for that, but it was done on the fly in many aspects, and he blew the world away. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got to go to break. It's the bottom of the hour. You're listening to the Drive Time SITREP with Denise Simon. My name is Don Neuen. We're going to take a quick 2-minute break, and we'll be back with more of the Drive Time SITREP.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.
Drive Time SITREP, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Don Neuen. You've got on the other end of this conversation the stellar Denise Simon. Before we went to break, we were talking about Trump and his walk, not using Nike walking shoes that you find at the mall, into North Korea. Tell me this. You know, Tucker Carlson had a stellar witnessing view of what took place. Don't know if you saw the footage and his discussion about this last night, but there was one thing that he brought up, and it's obviously speculation. I actually think he spent too much time speculating on it. But did you find it odd that he did spend so much time, if you saw it, talking about the wheezing Kim?
I did see that. I think Tucker was very concerned with the fact that he walked 25 yards and he was wheezing, to the point where they brought on a doctor, whatever his name is, and said, "What's wrong with this cat? You know, does he have emphysema? He smokes. You know, is he got some kind of, you know, asthma? Is he an alcohol? What's the whole thing?" But yeah, so that one was a little on the weird side.
Well,
but the other,
you know, I actually think it may have been that he was absolutely nervous as hell.
Oh, little Kim was nervous?
Yeah. I mean, that was he understood in no uncertain terms how historical of a moment that was, and that the entire world was watching that once again. And it was a completely different setting than, you know, like Vietnam was the last time they got together. I just think that, I don't think that Kim has emphysema or that he is, you know, has black lung or some strange disease like that. I mean, he might, but I think it may have been anxiety or nerves or, you know, just an acute excitement level. What say you?
It could have been anything. I don't have context, so I didn't see the guy wheezing. He looked like he was walking just fine. So I don't know. Maybe I'd have to defer to Tucker Carlson. I guess he saw it firsthand. So whatever, Tucker, go with it. In the meantime,
he thought he was late. Maybe he thought he was late and he was running from his vehicle or train or whatever he took down to the DMZ to that location. We don't know. Know.
Yeah, Tucker did some interesting reporting, including the bodyguards.
He really did.
Including,
yep, really
I would
did.
say, the fake village that is right off the demilitarized zone. That there's all these buildings, but nobody lives there. So I got to give him some credit. He gave us some context of what was really happening, including, I would say, Secret Service having to step in and protect the press and some of the White House staff, including Stephanie Grisham, who is the new White House press secretary, if you will. She kind of got into a physical altercation with...
She earned her stripes this weekend, didn't she?
Yeah.
Hey, it looked like she held her own too. I was impressed.
She wasn't gonna, she wasn't gonna be pushed around.
Somebody needs to do a montage of that segment of the video and play Kung Fu Fighting, that song from the 70s or 80s.
Yeah.
Because it looked like she was throwing a few Chuck Norris moves, didn't she?
Well, I wouldn't go quite that far, but she was doing a few body slams for sure.
I don't know. I've watched a lot of Chuck Norris, and I think she nailed it. But
Okay.
that's for a different show.
But in the meantime, we have the Democrats, and what are the Democrats saying? That Trump is out there embracing a murderer, a killer, a despotic tyrant, blah, 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 blah. And he gets along with Kim, and, they're just playing this thing up like, look who he's making friends with, and this is on the heels of, he's always sympathetic to Putin. But let's go back in history a little bit, shall we? Because
sure, let's do it right now. Let's do it right now, Denise.
Remember World War II, we had Roosevelt with Stalin. And we had Nixon with Chairman Mao. We had Obama with Castro. And we had Nancy Pelosi with a current war criminal, as far as I'm concerned, and that's Bashir al-Assad.
Yeah.
But nobody mentions those, do they?
Well, you know why?
Yeah, I do.
Well, let's just, for the sake, if we have any liberals listening, explain why. Why do you think nobody's saying anything, Nisi?
It's convenient not to. The Democrats, you can put facts in front of them and they step over them. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is notorious for that. Tom Perez is notorious for that. I mean, I can go on with a master list of how the Democrats don't care about facts, including Jerry Nadler, chairman of the Oversight Committee.
All right, hold on. Stop right there. On Nadler. I wasn't going to bring this up, but since you said that name, I have to bring it up. So yesterday, you know that I underwent some oral surgery. Nothing serious, ladies and gentlemen. Just right now I'm in a little bit of pain, but nothing bad. But I went into this oral surgeon's office. Well, as Donna and I approached this, because I had to go under general anesthesia, so she had to drive me home, which happened to be like 100 miles or 110 miles from my house. At any rate, as I got out of the car, I looked up on the marquee, and my oral surgeon's last name was Nadler.
And you stayed?
Yeah. But Donna and I both did a double take, and we were like, are we sure we want to do this?
And
but I got to tell you, he did a great job, and the office staff was quite conservative. I was very pleased to hear that.
And that kind of goes to where we really are, because we take exceptional caution today on everything that we do in our daily lives. We, people that are paying attention think twice about where we go, how we get there, our actions, what we say, how we say it, or if we don't say it. So I think we need to admit it. We're living at a level of fear that we didn't have, I would say, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, or 30 years ago. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, because it's the first thing. I don't know if I had fear, because clearly I knew Jerry.
No, but you hesitated.
Yeah, I mean, I did a double take on it. Like, do I want to do this? And then, of course, I knew I did. Well, I really didn't. I got to be honest. I did not want to go.
Yeah, but you had no idea if this was Nadler's brother or uncle or, whatever.
I got to tell you, the first thing I did look for when I met the guy is where his belt line was. And I knew right then he was no relation to Jerry Nadler.
But it does speak to where we are today, especially.
It most certainly does.
As we're going into Independence Day celebrations, of which the Democrats are already freaked out, because we have apparently on tap the Blue Angels. Apparently we have a B-52. We have some Abrams tanks. And so this allegedly, and I think the tanks actually came from Georgia, if you want to know the truth. And so the Democrats are freaked out because in order to do these things, where Trump wanted to show off our, I would say, pride in our military, the cost is ranging anywhere from, the last number I saw was almost 400,000. And so we have, some Democrats that feel like that we should not have to pay for that this should come out of Trump's pocket.
Well, hey, listen, the bottom line, Denise, is that if he would have taken that $400,000 and spent it differently, he could have cured cancer.
Not for 400,000, but okay.
You know what I'm saying? That's the stupidity that comes out of the left. I mean, quite honestly, as we talked about before, Trump could come up with a cure for cancer, and the Democrats would not like this.
Well, it'll be very, it'll be a fun thing, I would say, to watch. Because it's not a 4th of July Independence Day celebration that we've had in Washington, D.C. before. The Democrats are accusing him of making a partisan speech, making it a pro-Trump rally, and I can assure you my gut instinct tells me that whoever is writing this speech will not make it partisan. They will write it such that it should make the Democrats ashamed.
Well, let's hope so, because I know I have one objective with regard to year 2020, or one paramount objective, and that's to beat the living snot out of the Democrat Party politically.
Well, I hope he doesn't mention Colin Kaepernick and the Betsy Ross tennis shoes. That would be a mistake.
Well, hey, don't put it past him.
That would be pretty partisan, however.
True. All right, what else is going on, Nisi?
Well, just as a sidebar, I've been poking around here on this whole thing with Iran. And to the point where something is telling me that things are a lot more serious with Iran than we're necessarily being told. And I'm of the notion that if somebody spends a lot of time doing research and you start putting all of these sources, documents, articles, events that are in open source, meaning you can get them any place on the internet, and you put them all together, you end up with a classified document. You see what I'm saying? If somebody starts pulling things and kind of setting them on the table and analyzing them all, the next thing you know, you really have a classified document. And so I'm of the notion that we do have, in fact, a condition here with Iran that's a whole lot worse than we know. And so I wrote a piece today that I titled "Possible Details on Iran for Trump Briefings." And I kind of listed some things in there. And the one thing that struck me, so I put it at the very top at number 1, is that there are some sunset provisions in the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action that are closely upon us. And one of them is a UN Security Council resolution, number 2231, that expires in October of 2020. And that when upon expiration, there will be the ability for arms transfers, guns, howitzers, mortars, battle tanks, armored combat vehicles, combat aircraft, attack helicopters, warships, missiles, or missile systems that can be transferred into Iran. Yikes.
You know, it just never ceases to amaze me why people like John Kerry and Barack Obama are not being held accountable for this kind of stuff.
Well, I'm glad you just happened to mention it, because then I some things came on my radar, so I ended up writing another piece pretty much on Iran. And this one took me a long time to put together, because we tend to forget. We all concentrate on the $150 billion that Barack Obama and John Kerry gave to Iran. The pallets of cash that ended up in Geneva, Switzerland on an airplane tarmac waiting to be transferred. But one thing happened that I think was more freaky and terrifying. And that is, and we knew about it, we just forgot about it. And that is that Iran was to send 8.5 tons of low enriched uranium, nuclear material, to Russia. And in exchange, Russia was going to send yellow cake back to Iran. and perhaps some heavy water. Well, John Kerry said that the Iran shipment to Russia has already tripled the amount of time it would take to produce enough fuel for a bomb from 2 to 3 months up to 6 or 9. Well, we've long since passed that because this all happened in 2015. He said that it was a significant step forward in Iran meeting its commitment to have no more than 300 kilograms of low-enriched uranium by implementation day. Well, guess what happened this week? They've already said they're
verified that they've exceeded it, right?
Right, including what they have stockpiled. There was a limitation on what is stockpiled. So they've exceeded both of those things. Now, here's a fun thing. A lot of people don't know this. Russia sent a ship to go collect this enriched uranium from Iran. And I had to work pretty hard to find the name of the ship. I finally found the name of the ship. And there's this guy that I have watched every once in a while, and he kind of watches what goes on in the Barents Sea. And Norway played a fairly sizable role in order for that uranium to be transferred to essentially St. Petersburg, Russia. But here's the thing. Nobody knows if it really went there, if it was really on that ship. We don't know. How come we don't know? Well, or why was there some question? Because we have this cockamamie ambassador, Stephen Mull, who was assigned, I don't know, he had some kind of ambassadorship role in this whole thing. And he gave some testimony before Congress. And some members of Congress started asking him some questions, including a Republican at the time from New Jersey, of all places, by the name of Chris Smith. And he said, hey, dude, do we have any on-site accountability? Can we go and verify for ourselves? And the reply from Ambassador Mull was no. Well, Congressman Smith said, we cannot. Who does? And Mull only said, well, Russia's responsible for maintaining it, controls and access. Where's it been put? Well, it's not been fully, according to our information, it has not been decided where exactly Russia will put this. Congressman said, but where did it go? It has to be somewhere. Ambassador Mull said, I believe it has not arrived yet, but it will very soon. So the question
when did this testimony take place?
In 2016.
Yeah,
so we don't know. Has anybody followed up? Has anybody done anything? I can't find anything that says, hey, it's confirmed. It's not confirmed. We don't know where it is. It ended up in Kazakhstan. We don't know.
Appalling.
Now, isn't that just a little on the terrifying side?
All of this is terrifying.
So maybe Iran didn't have to enrich anything because they got their stuff back. We don't even know if that is possible or not.
Right.
Yikes.
Hey, we've got,
maybe we should ask Norway.
Much time we got. All right, look, we've got a little over 8 minutes. I want you to bring something back up to the front burner, if you don't mind, if nothing more for the sake of any listeners that have not heard us discuss this or are not familiar with Project Cassandra. I was in a debate this past week with a liberal former law enforcement officer from the Chicago area.
Why?
And we were going, just because it's humorous. It's like a sport. And I brought up to him Project Cassandra. Somehow the debate got into that. And he claimed that he knew what was going on with it, but I found that he didn't. And when I kind of caught him in either half knowing what he was talking about with regard to it or not knowing what he was talking about, the conversation kind of petered out. Explain to the listeners a thumbnail sketch about Project Cassandra and why that is such a significant operation, and has it been started back up again?
Project Cassandra was launched in 2008, and it was a drug enforcement agency slash, I'll just keep it a drug enforcement agency operation.
Multiple agencies.
Well, I'm gonna not quite go that far, because in some cases CIA did interfere, and they didn't really interfere to shut it down, but paths were being crossed, and because paths
when
were being...
did they interfere? What year did they? And I don't mean to keep cutting you off, but we've only got a few minutes.
Okay,
when did they interfere with this?
Well, they just made things complicated. Let's put it that way. And I think the same thing.
Not in 08.
No, not in 08. This
Okay.
went later into the Obama administration. But what was happening here is that Hezbollah, and we all know about Hezbollah, was collecting in excess of $1 billion a year that we can account for. It could be 10 billion for all we know, of drugs and weapons trafficking that went worldwide. And this was done with at least a major automobile operation here in the United States. And it went to Africa.
Cash for clunkers, right?
Well, I don't think it had anything, because it happened before Cash for Clunkers.
Oh, I was under the impression that was part of that. That was
no, Cash for Clunkers happened, I think, in 2009 or 2010, and Project Cassandra was launched in 2008.
Well, it was launched, but it was still continuing because the Obama administration ended up shutting it down. It was started by Bush 43.
Well, the reason they shut it down was because the DEA had some real goods, and it was going to complicate all the work on the John Kerry operation with Iran. So we're going to shut this down because we don't want anything to complicate the Comprehensive Joint Plan of Action, including, I might say, the fact that the DEA's work also uncovered bomb making back to Hezbollah, storage of weapons. Now you kind of get into FBI and CIA territory. You see what I'm saying?
And now does everybody see why I brought this up tonight? This parlays on to everything else you've been talking about, Denise.
Correct. And so for Europe to be in which I wrote about today too, for Europe to be in this ridiculous operation called INSTEX, which is INSTEX, otherwise known as some kind of exchange. It's a European exchange instrument in support of trade exchanges, where Germany, Britain, France are still staying in the Iran deal, and they're pooling money. And the money is to continue to do business with Iran, such that it really finesses all the sanctions that the United States has. Now, here's the fascinating thing, is that this trade exchange, if you will, that was set up by Germany, France, and the UK is based in Paris. It is managed by a German banker by the name of Per Fischer, and the UK is the supervisory board. So you got it based in Paris, which is France. You got a German banker, which obviously is Germany's piece in it. And you got the UK as the advisory board. So now you begin to understand a little bit about the troubles that John Bolton and Mike Pompeo are having with Europe, still doing business with Iran. Now let's go a little bit further, because, we talked about the Iran declaring that they're over the 300 kilograms of low enriched uranium and that kind of thing. But the U.S. has also sent 12 F-22 Raptors, which are stealth fighters, to Qatar, the Al Udeid Air Base, and that's to bolster some situations, because we are preparing everything that we can And by the way, in addition to the F-22s, we sent some B-52s that are, some are parked in Qatar. I think the others are parked at the United Arab Emirates. But anyway, we are prepared for all things when it comes to asymmetric warfare, which means we have the cyber component, which Trump called off the strike after they bombed our drone. And the New York Times, interestingly enough, they kind of confirmed where I said this whole thing was going to go and that we were going to do a cyber attack. Well, interestingly enough, the cyber attack is actually authorized by the last NDAA that was passed by Congress. And inside that, what is known as traditional military activities, TMA, included cyber activities. So... Gotcha. Now, the other piece is that we've got Qasem Soleimani, who has set up a whole pile of terror cells, including in Africa, that are ready to strike any oil fields, military installations, or embassies, which are under, these terror cells are operating under a Unit 400 by the Quds Force. So we have a lot of other moving parts when it comes to all things threatening by Iran.
All right. Well, nice recap there. I hope that we can pick up on this Project Cassandra thing again in the future. I think it's important to keep this thing alive as to, you know, really kind of why something good ended up turning into something that was squelched and silenced by the Obama administration.
All things Iran and Obama.
That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the Drive Time SITREP. We want to thank our primary network, Mojo 50. We encourage you to go check out mojo50.com. That's MOJO50.com. There's a ton of great shows on that network. We're honored to be a part of it. We also want to thank our terrestrial affiliates down in South Georgia and North Florida. We've got WDDQ and we've got WJHC. We sure do appreciate our terrestrial families as well. Ladies and gentlemen, until next week, Denise is going to say goodbye as only she can do.
Thanks for being with us, and God bless America.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.